Hi, I'm Mr. Pink from Modern Synthesist, and this is How to Sculpt Armatures. So today, what I'm going to show you is how to use armatures when you're sculpting something from scratch. You don't have to sculpt things from scratch to benefit from armatures. They're just a really good way to kind of bulk up a model or kind of get down some basic shapes if you want to add some pieces on later, like some armor. So here we have a model that I've already started. You can see here some exposed wire, and if I tip them up like this, I don't know how well you can see it, you can see some what looks like tinfoil down here, which is indeed tinfoil. So to start this guy off, what I started with was something like this. I used to use copper wire for armatures, and then my lovely Norn Queen decided to make a flower crown and bought this floral wire, which is, I can't really explain it. It's so malleable, and there's something like stiff about it, but not annoying. It's the perfect thing for like putting it in a pose, and then it holds the pose. So if you can find this stuff, I think it's some kind of floral wire in your local craft store. It's a great thing because it really helped me in posing this guy who's supposed to be really kind of fluid in his shapes. See all those like tentacle shapes? All right, so the first thing, whenever you're sculpting, people who are regulars of the channel will know that this here is green stuff. So you got a yellow part and a blue part. And this here is epoxy sculpt, which is my secret weapon of choice to combine with green stuff. Green stuff, you mix it 1-to-1. Epoxy sculpt is the same, you mix it 1-to-1. And what you can do is you can combine the epoxy sculpt and the green stuff to get much more, I don't know, make your green stuff last longer. There we go. I'm doing this video rough to try and get it out and actually get it to people, so I'm sorry if it's there's a lot of bullshit going on, but yeah, so you mix all that stuff together. You see what I did here is I have some water, so I wet my fingers so that the putty doesn't stick to my fingers, and then I just work it up to mix all this stuff together. So I'll just work it, and maybe I can fast forward this part so you don't have to listen to me. Or maybe I should just talk to you so that I don't have to fast forward junk later. Yes. So this is green stuff mixed with epoxy sculpt, and it takes on the best properties of both materials. You might think it's weird, but all of this green that you see here is not actually green stuff. This is all a combination of green stuff and epoxy sculpt, which is very useful for extending your green stuff and not having to break the bank to buy lots of it all the time. So yeah, that's getting pretty mixed up now. It's getting a little tacky. The color is uniform, which is a good sign. And so I don't fucking know how to do this really. Let's figure it out. I've got this huge shooting rig over my workspace, which is not normal. And I gotta find a way to work around it. Alright. Let's see. Will this work? No, let's see. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is there's two ways that you can work an armature. You can just take a bare wire like this and apply green stuff to it. So that's the easiest. That's the easiest way to do it. So I'll show you how that works, but really there's not much to see. So you just take your green stuff, find your wire, and you just stick it on there. Now, what you might notice is that as you're trying to stick green stuff to this wire, you're like, okay, yeah, got it on there. It's so good. I'm gonna get my handy dandy sculpting tool. And the other thing you need to always remember when working with green stuff is that you want lubricant. So you don't want your tools to stick to the green stuff, so you can use water like we have here. But what I prefer to use is just like a basic hand cream, less scents and other garbage in it, the better. I use Nivea hand cream, And I tend to just put it on the back of my hand so that it's easily accessible. And so I have nice, soft, beautiful hands. And then you can easily get to it, like a little palette. You can get to it with your tool. Put a little bit on your tool. You don't need that much. That could even be too much. But you don't worry. When you're sculpting, don't worry about anything. Don't be like, oh my god, I think I have too much. Or, oh my god, I think I have too little. Just get some on there. Get a little greasy and it'll do the work for you. So you got your tool, you got your green stuff, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to sculpt this green stuff on this wire. Oh my god, it's going to be so good. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm loving it. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah, I'm sculpting my green stuff on this wire. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh look, now it's sticking out this side. Okay, don't worry. I'm going to push back. Yeah. Oh, now it's falling off. Oh my god, my green stuff, it won't stick to this wire. So one of my other tips about green stuff is that you want to work in layers. You don't want to get anything. You can't ever sculpt one thing all in one go in green stuff because it's going to be more trouble than it's worth. You can see here the green stuff is not, it sticks to the wire kind of, but as soon as you push it, it comes off the other side of the wire. And if you push it too much, you're going to break it across the wire and the wire is going to start showing through. So what I tend to do, if I'm making an armature with just green stuff on a wire, oh, I actually realized we're using this side. So if I'm just making a green stuff armature on a wire, I will get the green stuff and I'll kind of like, what I'm doing here is a long skinny tentacle. So I'm going to roll out a long skinny tentacle piece of green stuff to kind of lay it along that tentacle piece in the rough shape that I want. And then I'm going to get either my rounded spoon tool, which some people have told me is an elevator or a dental something or other, or a Biel wax carver. It's like a rounded spoon tool. It's my favorite. Or I'm going to use this, the be all and end all and the only sculpting tool you should have, which is a silicone shaper tool, silicone paintbrush, silicone brush. Get that good and lubed up with some of your Nivea cream, or you can use water, but the Nivea just lasts longer. You put water on there, it's going to dry out. You'll have to get more. And then you use that paintbrush to just kind of like paint the green stuff onto the wire. So don't push too hard because you'll, like I did before, you'll wrap the green stuff around the wire, like bust the wire through it. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to kind of get it evenly wrapped around the wire, but be very gentle because you don't want to, you want it to stay kind of thick. You don't want to press it too hard so that it gets too thin on one side and then all the thickness comes to the other side. And you're not really doing anything at this step. All you're doing is getting this green stuff onto this wire and then you're going to let it harden on the wire. Because my second tip about green stuff, or maybe it's my third now, is that you always want to work in layers. Like I said before, you don't want to sculpt everything at once. You don't want to be like, I'm going to sculpt an arm with an accident and a hand on it and some armor because you're going to drive yourself crazy. And it's not worth it. So especially when you're working with armatures, you're not going to be able to sculpt that tentacle onto that wire. It's not going to work for you because the wire is too thin and it's going to keep bending around it and warping and whatever. You're going to go nuts. So what you want to do is you want to get you want to bulk up that armature. That's what we're doing with the green stuff here. We're just getting more green stuff onto the armature to thicken it up and also to make a less smooth, less skinny surface that we can then put our next layer on. So I'm just using this kind of paintbrush to paint the green stuff around. Get it all in there. And what you can do is with tentacles, it's usually thicker at the body, thinner at the ends, so you can kind of like use this brush to pull some back towards the body, make it thicker, like smooth it this way, and then smooth it out this way and get it really thin out towards the end of the tentacle. Like I said, I'm going to be doing this in many layers, so this is not going to be the final thickness of this. This is just like roughing it in. That's the best way to work with armatures. An armature helps you rough stuff in, and you want to rough it in a number of different stages. So you start with the wire, which gives you the first rough shape you're going to use. Then you take some green stuff or something else, which I'm going to show you in a second, to bulk it up and kind of get a little more of the shape you're going with, and kind of like rough, not texture, but skinny in the parts where you want it to be skinny and thick in the parts where you want it to be thick. Because when you're working with layers, you're working with green stuff in layers, like subsequent layers, you're always going to be adding thickness. So you don't want to make anything too thick at this stage, because then it's going to be super thick at a later stage. See, I'm just getting a kind of a rough shape. I need this to kind of curve in here and clean up the bottom part of it. There we go. Don't worry about it being smooth because you're going to put more green stuff over it. Just get the rough shape in and don't push too hard because you don't want to push it past the wire and over to the other side because then you're going to have to go over to the other side and push it back past the wire. Just be gentle. Be gentle, be patient. Get the rough shape that you want. And then the key to green stuff is leave it alone. You're going to get to a point where you're going to be like, oh, I'm just going to do a little bit more. I'm just going to do a little bit more. And a rule of green stuff is that you're going to fuck up. At some point, you're going to keep pushing it. You're going to keep pushing it. You're going to keep pushing it. And you're going to push it past the point where you wanted it. And you're going to be, oh no, it was so perfect. And now it's gone. What a waste. So one of the key things to learn about green stuff is when to stop. When to be like, okay, job's a good one. I will leave it. You can always fix it later. You can always cut it back if it's got too thick, or you can add another layer and clean it up later. Be patient with your green stuff. No one ever sculpts everything in one go. Jess Goodwin, ultimate sculptor extraordinaire. I bet you that guy doesn't sculpt a Carnifex in one go. He builds up the layers, he builds up the armatures, the substructures, and then once he's got all the substructures where he likes them, then he puts a top layer of detail onto it. So this is probably pretty good for like a substructure for a tentacle here. I'm just obsessing and doing useless stuff here. This is pretty good. I don't have any weird angles on it. I can easily clean this up and fill it in when I do the next layer. So yeah, that is how you start with an armature for green stuff. So put the armature in, get a layer of green stuff, gently add it to the outside to kind of bulk it up and give yourself something to work on later. You can blend it in if you want, like down here. When it starts to stick to your tool, just go back, get more of your lubricant off your hand, or get more water if you're chumping it, and then yeah, just smooth her out. Smooth it, smooth it, smooth it. This stuff will change your life. If you've not been using lubricant at all, you probably want to stab yourself. But if you're using water, you know, it's challenging. But once you start using like Nivea or cream, it just glides. Like it's like two thin coats, man. It's two thin coats of putty. It just glides. It's like you're painting with it. Oh my god, it's beautiful. If your putty isn't smooth, if it's rough, don't use green stuff that comes in a tape that has a space in the middle. I bought this stuff, and it comes in a tape, and there's yellow on one side and there's blue on the other side. This one has a gap in the middle, which is helpful. Usually there's no gap there, and usually they're touching. And right where they're touching, green stuff gets hard. So if you blend it together with that part where they're touching, that's going to get gnarly and knobby inside your green stuff. Also, if you're having trouble with green stuff not being smooth, it could be that your green stuff is too old. If you've had green stuff for a long time, it can get old. I don't know. I use it forever, and I just kind of deal with the gnarliness. But it can happen. Like, I've been using some old-ass green stuff, and then I buy new green stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, what have I been doing to myself? I should have just been using new green stuff this whole time. So if you had green stuff on your shelf for a long time, and you're a little worried to try it out, you can absolutely experiment with it, and just kind of like take some time and mess around with it, because, you know, don't want to waste money on new stuff. But try buying a little bit of new stuff, and just like compare it, because if your green stuff is gnarly and bumpy, you try new stuff and it's not gnarly and bumpy, that could be an issue. Or you want to make sure that your working area is very clean, because green stuff is sticky as crap and it'll pick up everything on your workspace. This could probably be a lot cleaner, but I'm not really that worried. So yeah, look out for bumpy green stuff. It's no fun for anyone. So there is that armature. And what we're going to do over here is show another way to do it. We saw that when we'd started on this, that it was really hard at first, because I was pushing the green stuff, it was falling off, pushing it over to the other side, and then I had to push it back, and it didn't really have anything to grip onto, because the wire's so smooth, and it just wants to slip around it and slip to the other side. So you can do this stuff, where you bulk it up with green stuff, but why waste green stuff when you probably have a buttload of this kicking around your house? Tinfoil, the ultimate bulking material for sculpting. So what you do, you did this one the chump way, but this side you're gonna be a pro. So what you want to do for the pro side is you get your wire, you get your tinfoil, and this is gonna be a tentacle-y thing. So I'm gonna make it like I did with the green stuff, make it into kind of like a sausage shape, but I'm gonna have it so I can wrap it. And then, let's see, it's gonna be thicker at this end, so I'm gonna make it a little thicker at that end with the tinfoil. And then you get your wire, you get your tin foil, and you just wrap it around there. Again, you can kind of wind it around, get your sculpting tools. They can help you because this stuff is so malleable. And just kind of wrap it, squeeze it, keep squeezing. You can cut it off if it's too big. Just keep squeezing. Just keep squeezing. Oh yeah, just keep squeezing. That's what she said. Just keep squeezing. Oh yeah, you're in my head, baby. With your squeezing and your crimping, and you're crimping and you're squeezing. I don't really know what the fuck is going on. Okay, so that's getting close to tentacle shape, but it's not as easy to mess around with as the green stuff. So what you do, you go in your handy dandy hobby drawer, you get out some pliers and you just go to town on it. Because it's tinfoil, right? It'll squish. This is not ideal. Shit. I did this on these tentacles, which are much bigger and much gnarlier, so you could just kind of like bulk it out with tinfoil and squeeze it down very easily. I'm not having as much fun here because I want it to be small and it's doing kind of a green stuff. Okay, so we're doing this hard and fast, and I'm recording it on a DSLR camera, and it'll only record for 20 minutes and then it shuts off. And this shut off a while ago, and I don't really know when it shut off, so I might be repeating myself, but what we did first is we did this one with green stuff on a wire, and now we're putting some aluminum tinfoil on this wire here, just to build up some bulk so that we don't have to waste green stuff building that bulk. This is an armature. Like, a wire is an armature, tinfoil can be an armature, you can get a pop bottle that's an armature if you want to sculpt something big enough. You can use other models as armatures. I once used a demon prince head and sculpted another demon prince head over it because I wanted to have a general idea of where the eyes went and the mouth and all that crap. So I've just taken some of this aluminum foil, that's the cheapest bulking material ever, that you have lots of in your house. I've kind of wrapped it around this wire and crimped it in so that it sticks to the wire pretty well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of green stuff over it. So when we were doing this side, I said that you want to put a layer on, let it dry, and then do your detail layer over top. So you don't have to worry about pushing it around and having it come off the wire. With this, you could get away with doing a detail layer. Like, for example, if you see these tentacles here, they have kind of like the, oh Christ, what is that called? Is that a striation? I don't know what that is. Ribbing, for his pleasure. This I sculpted on right away. I put a wire in there, I put aluminum foil in there, and I did one layer of sculpting putty, and I was able to do the detail into it. These are very big. They had a lot of aluminum foil behind them, so it was a lot easier to do. I don't think that'll happen as easily here because there's not as much aluminum foil here. This could shift, it can move around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of green stuff like we did on this side. I'm going to do a layer of green stuff here to just kind of hold it in place and get the rough shape that I want, and then go back later. So I'll show you. It's not hard. So you get your green stuff. You kind of stretch it out. Again, right now I'm not worrying. When you're using green stuff, don't worry. Don't try and get something right the exact first time because you can always put more layers on top. As long as you don't make it too fat, you can always get layers on top. And if it gets too fat, you can just cut them back. So I don't know, I'm kind of lumping it on there, going and getting some lubricant, some Nivea Fit, as Simon the German would say, as the Hydra would tell you. You have to get some fit, put some fit on your tools, and your tools will be nice and smooth, and nice and lubricated. And once you have the fat on your tools, you take the tool and you smooth the green stuff. Oh yes, oh shit, I'm still sticking. I need more fat. So here, the aluminum foil is not really attached. If you want to be a keener, you could put glue on the wire and then stick the aluminum foil around, but you know what that is? That's a recipe for getting glue all over your hands. So I wouldn't do it. I would just get a rough shape with the aluminum foil, and then once you get enough green stuff on it, it'll start to play nice. It'll start to get stuck in the shapes where you want it. So you can make it pretty thin over top. You don't want the aluminum foil poking through, but this is just to kind of like hold it and give a solid surface on the outside of the foil. So with my lubricated tool, I'm just smoothing that over there. Smooth in the body a bit, but like I said, I can come back and fix this later. Don't worry, just get the substructure done. When you're working with armatures, it's all about getting the shape you want. That's all that matters. Thickness, you can add later. Detail, you can add later. Just get the shape you want. And get that shape solidified by putting some putty over it, so it's not going to go anywhere. This thing's good. You know what's better? This buddy right here. Oh yeah, little silicone brush. Oh yeah. Oh. There's another thing that Simon the German taught me. The Hydra. Oh, the silicone brush. It's the wonders of the world. Oh, you love it, yes. So with this, you can literally paint green stuff like it's 2 thin coats. Okay. So just keep. You can start with the bulk here near the body and smooth it down, smooth it down, smooth it down towards the extremity, because you want it to be thin this way anyway. But really, you're just getting the rough shape now, so you don't have to worry about it being perfect. Try to keep it thin, not too thick, because you will be adding layers later. You don't want to get it too built up. Yeah, so let's get in there. A little bit of aluminum here. Gotta bring it over, fill it in. This is, again, just so that the foil doesn't move around on me. So I've got a nice solid base for sculpting detail later. Okay. That needs some more green stuff. Fortunately, we got lots. If you haven't watched my other videos, if this is your first one, another hot tip that you may have missed, green stuff is, oh Christ, I don't know, exothermic, something like that. It's, you take this green stuff, and you take this halogen light, and you stick it right on there. It's going to heat up, and it's going to cook, and it's going to set faster. You don't have to heat green stuff for it to cure, but if you do heat green stuff, it will cure more quickly. So that's something you can use to your advantage. Just as heat makes green stuff cure quickly, what do you think cold does? That's right, Daddy-o, it slows it down. So this is another thing that I was taught by the Hydra. If you don't follow him, you should go on Instagram right now and look him up. He's at number 4, YDRA. Like the 4 is the H. At 4 YDRA. Hydra. He pretty much taught me everything I know about sculpting, and I'm just pretending that I know this stuff and that I'm a genius or something. So he taught me that if you have green stuff, you have extra green stuff, don't let it sit here and go bad. Take it, put it in your freezer, because it'll preserve it. If you mix up your green stuff and right away you take it and put all the extra in the freezer, you can use it for at least 2 days. Just roll it up into individual little balls, like so. Get a bunch of little balls, little balls, and little balls of green stuff, balls. Get your little balls, get some kind of little container like this, put the little balls in the container. I'm not going to actually do this because I've already wasted this stuff. Take your container, stick it in the freezer, and that stuff will stay for 2 days. It'll save you green stuff. It's amazing. Okay, so yes, that is a tip for saving green stuff. Another tip, get one of these. Get several of these. Get them in many shapes and sizes. They come in different hardnesses. This is a silicone brush. Some people call it a silicone shaper. I think almost all art stores have them. Even art stores that don't have good sculpting tools, they have these because they're used for painting. And when it comes down to it, just like some hobby companies you may know, they only care about painting. Who cares about sculpting? You don't need to sculpt. We're going to sell you all the models you want. Don't sculpt. So yeah, art stores also, they love painters more than they love sculptors. Probably because there's a lot more painters out there than sculptors. But not you. You're going to be a sculptor, my friend. We're getting you set up for success right here with Mr. Banks, how to sculpt, how to sculpt, how to sculpt theater. Okay, sorry, I'm filling space with ridiculousness. Oh my god, this is reminding me of, you ever watch Nightmare Before Christmas? The Oogie Boogie Man. Something about his arm here, it feels oogie boogie to me. It's a little fatter than I want. I probably should have made that aluminum foil a little skinnier. Or maybe I should have just gone with this system where I do the wire, build a layer, bulk it up. But, I don't know. We'll try this and see how it goes. At least I got to show you this, so you know all about different ways of doing armatures. So, you know, just basically bringing the green stuff all the way down to the end to cover up all the foil, because I want to have a solid surface to sculpt on later. So I'm just kind of smearing it down towards this end, where we still have some aluminum that's exposed. Make sure it's pulled into the body though, so that, because right now this is wiggling a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a bit wiggly. So just building up this, in fact I should take some of this and shove it in this joint. just to strengthen this joint so that that aluminum isn't moving around quite so much. There we go. You're gonna have to let it dry before you really see how tough it is, but I'm just gonna make sure I'm still recording. Yay! Yeah, so just kind of strengthening this joint. Just kind of see how this paints it. Oh, look at that! It's just like painting the green stuff. You can just like put some trails in there, put some shapes. This is how it was so easy to sculpt this stuff. When I had the tinfoil, and then I put the one layer, because I just literally go like this, and all these little, whatever the fuck they're called, not striations, go in so easily with this. Green stuff, paintbrush. It's amazing. So maybe I'll get a little overachievy and try and do some of that here. But if we do that, we'll be here all day, and I want to go to bed. So let's just keep smearing this stuff down, covering this up, getting it thin as you can, but not so thin the aluminum is showing through, just to get like a solid surface on it, and then I can bulk it up later. You can see here it's kind of got it started, for lack of a better word, pooling, because I was pushing on this side, pulling, pushing on this side, pushing on this side, and that green stuff's got to go somewhere. So it came over to this side, and now it's kind of bulked up here. This is like a microcosm of the bullshit that you deal with here. If you're like trying to use a wire, because you'll push on this side and a big bubble will come up this side, and you'll be like, no, screw you, push it down, bubble will come back on this side, over and over again. You get the idea. So I've got this bubble that it's good though, because I need this extra green stuff to smear down to the end to fill up Mr. Oogie Boogie Man's arm. Yeah, so I'm just pushing it down. Pushing it down. Again, don't be hard on yourself. This is just an early stage. You're just getting a rough shape here. You don't need to be perfect, and you'll enjoy sculpting a lot more when you're not being hard on yourself. You're not trying to be perfect all the time. Work in layers, just like in Photoshop, and you always have the chance to correct what you screwed up in the previous layer. Just think about it like highlighting. When you're painting a model, you can't put the highlights in the same layer that you do the base coat. Just doesn't make sense. You have to put the base coat on, you have to let the base coat dry, and then you gotta bring in the highlights, or like the middle lights or whatever. And then you gotta let that dry, and then you gotta put in another layer of highlights. That is the best way to think about sculpting. That is how to keep yourself sane while thinking about sculpting. You're never gonna sculpt something all in one go. We all try it. Me too, man. Me too. You're like, yeah, I'm got green stuff. I'm gonna make a model. I'm gonna make a whole model in one go. I'm so fucking good with green stuff. And then you're like, oh my god, green stuff is hard? And it's so like squishy, and why does it keep squishing all the time? I don't want to squish, I want to be like awesome and look like a lictor. But you gotta put it in layers. It's just like shading. Just like highlights. You gotta put that base coat of green stuff down, let it dry, get the next layer of green stuff in, let it dry. This is really pissing me off how wiggly this is, but I'll believe myself that it's gonna get better. You gotta let it dry, and then you come in and do the next layer. And then when you do that, just as with highlights, you can use much smaller brushes, much finer detail. You can focus on the details that you want. That's exactly how green stuff works. You got to get the rough stuff in, block in the general areas that you want with green stuff, and then come back once it's hardened, once you've got more patience, and do the detail stuff. When you got that solid base to work from. You don't have to worry about putting down a base, making it solid, then putting a detail in it, and then that detail shifts out this side. It's horrible. So it's not that you're not good at green stuff, it's that no one taught you how to do it right. Everyone's been like, you've been living that dream that you're going to sculpt a lictor in one go, and let me tell you, honey, you're not going to do it. You need to work in layers. You need to be patient. You need to let yourself be awesome. Give yourself space and time to be awesome. You wouldn't paint a Space Marine all in one go. God, I hate Space Marines. Why do I love Space Marines? You wouldn't paint a Tyranid Warrior all in one go, unless you're one of those weirdos who dips. Just as you wouldn't paint something all in one go, so too should you not sculpt something all in one go. You gotta get the base, and then come back. That's actually something, that's a little metaphor, simile that I just came up with now. That's a little something special just for you. First time's the charm, and I'm doing it all for you, right here. What the hell I'm talking about. So yeah, the reason this is happening, I guess I'll talk about it while I'm doing this, is that all you friggin' glorious, fantastic people who are following me on YouTube, I made these videos like literally 1,000 years ago. I think it was when our Prime Minister got elected, he's about up for re-election, so that was 4 years ago. I made all these sculpting videos, and it's anyone who's edited video before knows that it's a real bitch to edit video. So you do all this work, you edit all this video, you get the sound in, you put it up, and you're like, yeah, I did this amazing thing, oh my god, I love it so much, everyone's gonna love it. And then, you know, the reality of YouTube is nobody knows what the fuck's going on in YouTube. Nobody knows where you are. The people who want to find you can't find you, so it takes time. And I got a little bit discouraged because I put all this work into it. I'm like, oh my god, it's so much work to do these videos. And does anyone really care? Like, I sculpt these weird things like tentacles and stitches and tyranids and Dark Eldar. And everybody wants to sculpt Space Marines and fucking servo skulls. Oh, what a world. So I went through the winter of my discontent, as it were. And yeah, I was like, oh, I don't know if anyone really cares about my videos, but you know what? People care. Like, there's a lot of you glorious, magnificent people who subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I really appreciate it. And literally every time, every single one of you subscribed, I got a hit in my email, and that hit was like, hey Pinky, why the hell aren't you making sculpting videos? You didn't say that, but that's what I read. It's like, oh, another person followed you on YouTube. And in my head it's, hey Pinky, why aren't you making more sculpting videos, man? And then, oh, someone else followed you on YouTube. Oh my god, you're still not making sculpting videos? What's wrong with you? You got all these people. They're looking for sculpting videos, and you promised them sculpting videos, and you ain't made shit. So thank you all for kicking me in the ass repeatedly and inspiring me to get off my ass and get back on making these videos. This is happening because of you. And it's also happening because of aforementioned sweet, glorious German, who taught me everything I know about sculpting. Hydra, go follow him on Instagram. Number 4, YDRA. He's not posting a lot of Games Workshop right now, but the guy's a genius. And you'll learn all kinds of crap from him, even if it's not Games Workshop crap. I think he's doing Frostgrave right now. So if you're one of those weirdos who likes Frostgrave, get over there. Or if you like Masters of the Universe or He-Man on this side of the pond, get over there, because he's obsessed with that. He makes all kinds of weird little He-Man miniatures. But yeah, Simon, Hydra, Simon Schnitzler, multi-Golden Demon winning artist and one of the nicest guys on the planet. I have the fortune of calling him my hobby bro. He sent me a really lovely message today where I was just like, oh my god, Simon, what am I gonna do? I want to do more sculpting videos, but it's so much work. And he's like, you know what, you should just put a camera, start sculpting something you're gonna sculpt anyway, and just film it. Maybe people like seeing it. So he inspired this, and he also told me to just do it like all in one go. Don't try and make it perfect, try and make it like rough and ready, and you'll be able to get it up faster. So that's what we're trying. So hopefully it works, and hopefully you guys are all enjoying this. But seriously, I really appreciate everyone who's subscribed, who's followed, because this stuff is not easy to do, and when you guys do that, it really makes me feel like there's people out there who want to see it. So I know I've asked this before, like, what do you want me to show you how to sculpt? Tell me again. Some people have made some really great comments. I wrote them all down. I swear to you, you guys, you know who you are. I wrote down your suggestions. I need to get to them. But yeah, if anyone has any ideas, let me know. The more Xenos, the better. If you ask me how to sculpt power armor, I'm going to do a video where I go to Games Workshop and I buy some power armor, because that is the easiest way to sculpt power armor. If you're trying to sculpt power armor from scratch, you might as well just go flagellate yourself. Like, if you really need to be a masochist that bad, just buy some lengths of, I don't know, leather, get some scraps of iron, and go all the terror on yourself with a cat o' nine tails, because you're going to have more fun doing that than you are sculpting power armor. And there's a reason that Games Workshop sells so much power armor. It's because it's a pain in the butt to sculpt armor. I mean, I can try to show you, but I'm going to be swearing a lot, and I don't know if the kids want to see that on the YouTube. Yeah, I love sculpting organics because organics are very forgiving. I don't love sculpting armor and things that are symmetrical because they're really hard. And if that's another thing, if you started sculpting, trying to sculpt something that's symmetrical, like armor or a weapon, a building, something like that, it's really fucking hard. Sculpting these weird tentacle things that it doesn't really matter what they look like, way easier. So things like robes are a little easier to sculpt. They're not exactly organic, but you can get started with them. But yeah, Tyranids, Dark Eldar, Chaos Mutations, these are the easiest things to sculpt. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. A lot of fantasy stuff probably easy to sculpt, as long as you can get some fur down. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just bullshitting now. I should probably call this to an end. So there you go. This is, I could go back and I could do another layer of detail on that one, but you can see here, this is the armature that we did with the aluminum. And I did a layer of green stuff over there, and because I was doing this kind of organic detail, I went through with a silicone brush and I kind of put some ribbing in there for this tentacle. So I got 2 stages in there, but really you could have just put a layer on that of just the green stuff, let that harden, and then come through and do this after. I'd probably have a better texture if I had done that, if I'd listened to my own advice, because down here it gets a little messy. But I don't know, I think it's pretty good. Yeah. So, let's say that concludes this episode of How to Sculpt, because I've got 30 seconds left on the video. So, thank you guys so much for following. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Let me know what you want me to sculpt in the comments down below. Or maybe they're down here. I don't know. This is all whacked. And yeah, see you soon. Like, oh man, so much of sculpting is just screwing around and figuring it out. You can use, we're talking about armatures here, you can use all kinds of crazy ass armatures underneath your sculpting. Here we got wire, we got tinfoil. Go on, oh god, green stuff sticks to everything. Go on Instagram and look up my bromance, Weirding's Way. Weirding's Way, like the word weird, Weirding Way. Oh god, shoving my hand in my old stuff. That guy, he makes everything out of everything. He has not ever found a dental floss container or some kind of, I don't know, mouth guard case that he couldn't make a crazy spaceship out of. And it's not sculpting, it's more like kit bashing and like building. But I don't know, I think of that as armature. Just go and get something that looks roughly the shape of what you want and then sculpt on top of it. Because you don't want to waste a whole bunch of green stuff bulking all this up. Under here is all tin foil, as you can see here, aluminum foil. Because I don't want to waste this much green stuff. That's a lot of green stuff. Look at this body, look how thick this is. That's a lot of green stuff. So as much as possible, I just want to like build a substructure with a wire to make it strong, and then with the aluminum foil to give it bulk. And then the top layer is green stuff and epoxy sculpt. And when you use epoxy sculpt, it gets pretty hard. Green stuff, this would be a little more rubbery, but still, you put a couple of layers on there and it's solid. It doesn't matter what's underneath. So yeah, Weirding's Way, what was I saying? He's building more with his stuff, but rather than sculpting, but he uses stuff as armatures. Like, he'll just get something that's in the rough shape of what he wants to build, and then it saves you the trouble of trying to build this shape out of green stuff. You build it out of solid piece, and then it's hollow on the inside, so it's not too heavy. And then you can put like tin foil on the outside. You can put paper mache on the outside if you want an organic shape. And then you put the green stuff on. When I was making Tyrannid Terrain, oh Christ, I've got it upstairs. I should go grab it. I was making these big mycetic spores, and I built them out of pop bottles because I wanted kind of an organic curved shape. So I got a plastic pop bottle. I sprayed insulation foam on the inside, the really cheap stuff that expands, and you just cut it away, but it fills up all that space, and then you can just sculpt the green stuff onto the insulation foam, and flip it over, and on the smooth surface of the bottle, you just scratch it up a bit, and you sculpt your detail onto that. So you wind up with something that's like this thick, but this much of it is green stuff, and this much of it is bottle and insulation foam, which is super cheap. Gives you a huge size, but you don't have to waste putty doing it. So the whole point of armatures is to get the shape that you want and to get the bulk that you want. So then you just have to worry about doing the upper level details. Okay, so I think this is pretty good. Well, actually it's shit and I hate it, but I'm gonna figure it out. Stupid little garbage. Sometimes green stuff is easier. Oh, I can just do the thing where I push this back because it's aluminum foil and you can almost sculpt with it. And then I'll finish the end with green. Okay, so here we see, I'm just gonna check my video, make sure I'm still recording. Oh, fuck.